The voting age is to be lowered to 16 in the UK by the next general election. Let's read into this more from The Guardian, you guys. The 16 and 17-year-olds will be able to vote in all elections as part of changes including easier voter registration and a crackdown on foreign interference. Guys, just a reminder, if you can, hit that like button and share this video across social media so others are notified of this video. This is wonderful news. This is great news. This is good news, especially for younger people, younger voices, and many of the younger generations are missing out on the perks and the benefits that the older generation have had. And it's by right that they should have their voices. And if they are working, if they are paying their taxes, if they're doing their part in society, why should they not have the right to vote? Now, some people will say, well, this is a bit of a contrast, Regan, because you're not in favour of compulsory voting. Yes, I'm not in favour of compulsory voting. But I think there are ways you can encourage people to vote. Winning over hearts and minds is the key for me. I don't consider compulsory and a democracy to be something that is compatible. That is my personal opinion. I know some people will disagree in the terms of compulsory voting, but I don't think it's something that we need. I think it's simply about winning the case of hearts and minds. And if you want a proof of an example of that, you only need to see what happened in the Democratic primary election run for the New York City mayor when Zoltan Mondami did all the odds to gain the votes he needed. There was no compulsory voting there. He won over hearts and minds, and this is the exact same concept that I apply here in the UK. If it can be done there in America in one of the most difficult and one of the most difficult times that it is right now that the country is in a city like New York City, to have somebody from out of nowhere to win shows you that it is not compulsory voting that we need. It is to be able to win over the hearts and minds of people in order to gain the votes that you need. And by lowering the age in the UK, this will obviously enable younger people to be able to vote. And I'm all in favour of younger people being able to vote here. And I'm also pleased that they want to crack down on foreign interference as well. There needs to be more done with that. Obviously, we'll see more details as time goes on. But I think this is a significant step in terms of having a form of democracy of sorts still here in the UK. I know people argue that we don't have a democracy, and that's your opinion to say so. But I do think that this significance here is important, and especially if it's going to be ready by the next general election as well. So the voting age will be lowered to 16 by the UK by the next general election in a major change to the democratic system. The government says it was a reform to bring in more fairness for 16 and 17-year-olds, many of whom already work or are able to serve in the military. It brings a whole of the UK voting age to 16. Scotland and Wales have already made the change for Holyrood and Senedd elections as well as local council elections. In a sweeping package of changes, ministers will also extend voter ID to include banks and veteran cards to help more people exercise the democratic right. It was absolutely stupid that that some people will not get. Yeah, the voter ID. It needs to be more easier for people to be able to pass to do that. I personally would not want a voter ID because we don't have the general elections themselves. We don't really have any electoral interference that much there. I'm not in favour of the voter ID. However, we've got it now and it's not going to go away. And my position is we've got to make it as simple and as easy for people to be able to cast their votes there. As revealed by The Guardian, there will also be tougher new rules to guard against foreign political influence abuses of candidates. The move to extend the voting franchise fulfils a manifesto promise by Labour to give 16 and 17-year-olds the vote. The package also appears to be taking steps towards encouraging more voter registration, although it does not commit entirely automatic voter registration. This is a big problem here. I'm all in favour of automatic voter registration. What I'm not in favour of is forcing people to vote against their will. I am totally in favour. I don't think people should have to register themselves. It should be automatically done for them. The government says it would move to an increasingly automatic voter registration, so it said it would move to an increasing one, that will reduce the need to fill out details and different government services on multiple occasions. So that's a good step. Andrew Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, said, "For too long, public trust in our democracy has been damaged and our faith in our institutions has been allowed to decline. We're taking action to break down barriers to participation and ensure that more people have the opportunity to engage in UK democracy, supporting our plan for change, delivering our manifesto commitment and giving 16-year-olds the right to vote. We cannot take our democracy for granted, and by protecting our election from abuse and boosting participation, we will strengthen the foundations of our society for the future. The changes on election financing were welcomed by campaigners for transparency, but the new rules stop short of imposing caps on political donations. And under the plans, ministers are to close the loopholes that would allow foreign money to influence UK elections, and there will be a crackdown on illegitimate donations through shell companies and new tests on political donors. What about cryptocurrency? That's a very important one I want to know more about. At the same time, there will also be stronger fines for up to $500,000 for those who break the rules, with any false or misleading declarations considered a criminal offence. Do you know what would be better for those who break the rules? Do you know what it should be if it's a case of, if they actually are found to have won the election and they are found to have breached the rules? Do you know what it should be? Do you know what the punishment should be? An automatic rerun. They will have to automatically run again for in their constituent. That's what they should have. They should be forced to have an automatic run. Voter run. That's what they should do. You force them to do an automatic run. So you basically say, oh, you cheated to get through. You think you're just going to face a fine. No. You're going to run again. You are going to run for your campaign again because you cheated. You're not going to cheat this time. That's what I think should be done personally. Political parties will be required to assess companies that are receiving donations from against a series of tests, proving their connection to the UK or Ireland. Companies used for political donations will have to prove that they are generating income in these countries. Currently, any UK company can make donations to a political party regardless of where it was set up, where is the money come, and who its owners are. Some campaigners have called for more sweeping reforms after the US billionaire Elon Musk floated the idea of giving $100 million to reform UK, an idea that he now appears to have dropped after tensions with the party's leader, Nigel Farage. I still personally just don't like the whole donation setup thing. I personally would rather everyone be given, depending on how many seats you have or not seats you have, everyone should be given a set amount of money that they can use for their political campaign, and the rest, and that should be it. I don't like the fact of, I'm just not in favour of donations to political parties. It's just too corrupt, and that's exactly what we have here. He would not, as a foreign national, be able to donate under the new rules, and we would have to prove any donation for a UK-based company had UK-generated revenue. There will also be an enhanced Know Your Donor checks, meaning parties will have to consider the risks of any money coming from illegitimate sources. New guidance will be provided by the Electoral Commission on conducting the risk assessments. The Committee on Standards in Public Life and the Electoral Commission have previously called for strengthening regulations and greater transparency in political donations. Any changes is toughened the law to stop candidates, campaigners and electoral staff being intimidated, harassed or abused. Changes include no longer requiring candidates to publish their home address on election material, and changing legal guidance so that it would be considered an aggravated factor if someone is found guilty of harassing a candidate, campaigner or staff member. And finally, the government is planning to change the law to ban those found guilty of intimidating or abusing a candidate from standing themselves as a candidate in the future. Yep. Yeah, any kind of intimidation or whatever on candidates, obviously that's there is that needs to be addressed there. Look, I understand how people feel about, like, for example, Nigel Farage. Obviously, you know, he obviously is one of the most divisive ones, but, you know, we can't be, like, regardless of how you feel about him, there are lines not to cross, guys. The best way to you don't beat a candidate like Nigel Farage by shouting abuse at him or hurling bricks or throwing milkshakes on him. I mean, like, the guy throwing the bricks at Farage was just way too dangerous and completely out of order. You know, the milkshake was like, you know, in the minds of us, it was for those on the centre and centre left, it was hilarious to see. But it, what does that do? It doesn't prove anything. It doesn't help your argument. Doesn't help your case. All it does is it makes a scene, and that's it. Doesn't really win over it. It's in terms of policies and politics is where the battle needs to be won, guys. And that's one thing that Reform are extremely weak on, and that is their policies. They are not challenged enough when it comes to their policies. This was highlighted by Ed Davey when he was on BBC recently as well. That's where those battlegrounds lie. And as far as all these changes are for, I'm all for these changes. I like all of them. I personally would like to see more done on. I personally just don't want to see more on the foreign nationals being able to donate and donations and outside. I don't like that personally. I'm very happy to see 16, 17-year-olds being given the opportunity to vote. I am happy that we're getting more for voter ID registration expansion. I'd like to hear a little bit more options for youngsters, especially in that regard as well. I do want to see more of that as well. If we're not going to be scrapping voter ID, which it looks like we're not going to be able to do that, I'm afraid, guys, which is very frustrating for me personally. But these are steps in the right direction. Good steps, but they don't go far enough. They don't go far enough, in my personal opinion. But I do hope that some of these decisions that Labour are making here with regards to the next general election and the changes on the election around these are good, positive ones that people will agree on. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, what you guys think of some of the changes that Labour are going to be bringing. Do you think, yeah, some of them are good, some of them are really bad? Maybe some of you think it doesn't go far enough like I do. Generally, would like to hear your thoughts. Now, if you found this video interesting and informative, hit that like button, share this across social media, subscribe if you haven't to already, and check out my Rumble and Patreon content down below as well for exclusive content on those platforms. And if you want to financially support me in the work that I do here, you can also become a YouTube member for as little as 99p. You just click the join button right down below here on the screen. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.